right to gather and the First Amendment. Choices I'd rather and thoughts independent. Getting a lawyer when I'm in a fight. These are a few of my favorite rights.
Okay, remember the scene in the film Gypsy when Rosalind Russell plods down the theater aisle yelling at her daughter to perform on stage, "Sing out, Louise! Sing out!"
I'm telling you, that doesn't sound like Rosalind Russell.
I'm not a Rosalind Russell star. Well, wouldn't you know it, there's an activist group, they call themselves Sing Out Louise, inspired by the election of the Don, to protest through parody song in the key of F-U.
I'm stealing
Like that.
that.
Yeah.
I'm stealing
That's
that.
their line, not ours.
I simply remember the Constitution, and then I don't feel so bad.
Gathered on the porch of Gephardt's Beer Culture Bar for this Bar Crawl Radio conversation are 4 representatives of 4 very different progressive activist groups, all inspired by the last election to speak out, act out, ride out, and sing out against President Trump.
Drumpf, it's Drumpf.
Drumpf.
That's
And
the correct
his
pronunciation.
crooked, crumbling cronies. There is a lot to talk about. And so, from the center of the universe, that is across the street from the mortuary and down the block from the best way to get protein and gas, Grace Papaya Hot Dog Stand, here we go.
And that's Wade Ripke's Eastern Blockheads band, usually play at Bar Pez.
In Brooklyn.
And that's always introducing Bar Crawl Radio.
Great, I love it. Great.
That's right, and they're out in Brooklyn.
I never get tired of that bop song.
I know you never do. That's why I keep
Never.
playing it.
And welcome back to Alina.
Thank you.
Alina Larson.
Thank you.
BC, our co-producer, who put this program together today.
Yay.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I've heard you've been traveling to the Dominican Republic.
Yes, I went to the Dominican Republic. It was a mixed bag. It's a beautiful place, but my son got sick. I don't recommend.
What did he get?
Well, I think it's the flu, but the dramatic part was that the clinic said that he had pneumonia and possibly dengue.
Oh, no.
Can you get that a worm or something?
It's from a mosquito.
Mosquito, right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Swimming in dirty water or something.
They just carry the germ.
Yeah, they just carry it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're in this clinic, and he's got 104 fever.
104.
And they put him in IV. They're taking blood. The blood's spilling on the ground.
Oh, that's
And they're
scary.
saying that he has to stay in the hospital because he has pneumonia and possibly dengue. And then his New York doctor is like, you know what? It's the flu. He's fine. Just take him home. So it was a real battle.
He might be better in Dominican Republic than now in New York.
Yeah.
You know.
Good point. No, part of me was thinking, like, does he already have coronavirus? Is
Yeah.
he like an early adopter?
No, he's got the good disease. He just has pneumonia.
right.
So they wouldn't?
So-
Would they release him? Were they?
They did.
They
They
did?
did. Yeah. I think they may have been trying to get money out of us.
Okay.
I
So
see.
yeah.
But
I see.
okay, you got to say one nice thing about the Dominican
It's
Republic.
absolutely beautiful. I went on the best whale watch of my life.
Ah,
Oh, nice.
Great swimming, great beaches, beautiful hilly palm tree mountains is beautiful. Yeah, so mixed
That
bag,
part
but
was
it was
good.
Yeah,
That-
yeah, exactly.
Our
But
kids
yeah, we
always get sick
survived.
when we vacation too. They always get
Right.
sick. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. No, he does about 50% of the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was still beautiful. It was fun. We survived. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank
well,
you
thank
for
you.
asking.
Welcome back. We
Thank
missed you.
you.
We have with us today on the Gephardt Bar porch the leaders of 4 social political activist groups: Sing Out Louise, the Shrill Collective, Learn as Protest, and Markers for Democracy. And let's meet each of them.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for Learners Protest. Thank you so much for coming. I had the pleasure of reading for Jeff and Learners Protest 2 times. But yeah, if you could just tell us how you came up with the idea and launched it and made it happen.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So Learners Protest is a teach-in. The idea has been around for a long time. And I think, if you look back at Abby Hoffman or, certain activists who were working in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and it goes back further than that, but I work a block from Trump Tower, and I have spent the last 13 years in the proximity of Trump Tower, and after the Republican National Convention, the whole place was becoming militarized. And then immediately after the election, knowing that it was a public space, a privately owned public space, as was Zuccotti Park, where the Occupy movement had its heyday, I started thinking about ways that I could use Trump's space against him. And the building remains the site of the Trump Organization's business operations. And so on a regular basis, we see Eric Trump or Donnie Jr. in the lobby. But in the time between the election and the inauguration, I was going every day and asking for people to come and join me. And we would generally go around lunch hour, and people could come read whatever felt was important to them as part of the teach-in. And so in the intervening years, there's everything has been read at this point. I mean, not every subject and not every writer, but people have read from plays, they've read poetry, they've read their own writing, they've sang songs, and certainly they've read lectures, letters, and important historical documents that apply to our particular moment here. The goal really was to get people to teach and to learn, and that's why I called it Learn as Protest. We none of us are teachers, none of us are professors, none of us are standing on a soapbox. We're generally standing around learning from one another, whether it's an op-ed from that morning's Times or it's a text going back to the very beginning of the source materials for Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States, reading about how the people of Hispaniola were treated by the people that sailed with Columbus. I mean, it has run the gamut, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. It is therapeutic, I think, and Alina, maybe you have a feeling about this.
Absolutely.
You stand in the lobby and you read, we read a speech by Malcolm X on the 55th anniversary of his murder in the lobby of Trump Tower. Now, I don't know how often Malcolm X has been invoked or his words have been read in the lobby of Trump Tower. I would imagine it's probably very few. And so being able to, be a middle-aged white guy and go into the lobby and not fear for my safety or fear, it's a very comfortable thing. I'm not putting my body on the line, and I really, truly appreciate the people that do in their activism. For me, I can go out on my lunch hour. I can convene a group of people who want to learn. And then we hope that we can bring voices and experiences to that space that wouldn't otherwise be there. And to learn in a space where Donald Trump has to pay to clean the toilets that we use afterwards. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for listening. If you are, this is Learn as Protest. This is the last teach-in of 2017. And because it's the last teach-in of 2017, I thought I'd read from Hope in the Dark. Some of these words have become sort of the watchword for this protest. We have the escalator and the Christmas tree and Trump Tower behind us. And it seems like as good a time as any to read these words by Rebecca Solnit from Hope in the Dark. To hope is to give yourself to the future, and the commitment to the future makes the present inhabitable. Anything could happen, and whether we act or not has everything to do with it. Though there is no lottery ticket for the lazy and the detached, for the engaged, there is a tremendous gamble for the highest stakes right now.
What has been the reaction from the other people that you've had read, or let's say also just from the employees?
Sure. Yeah. There's a whole range of experiences that we've had from, angry people yelling us down, build that wall, and things like that, to people who sit on the benches nearby and listen intently for an hour, and then when they approach us, we don't know what way they're going to go. And hearing people we were sure would be displeased with us sort of join in and ask how they could participate from the state that they're from and find ways to expand the teach-in. The people that work in the lobby of Trump Tower, there's the Secret Service and the New York, the NYPD intelligence unit are very civil to us.
Okay.
And have always been very nice. The actual employees of the building, the security that he employs have not, but they can't do anything about us. We've only been removed, I think, once when there was a group of students from Hunter College that were all reading aloud from a single text together, and they told us we couldn't chant aloud in the lobby, and they moved us out of the building. But beyond that, as long as an individual is reading out loud, it doesn't seem to matter the volume. We can get away with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I think you said it's every Friday at noon. Is that right?
That's right. We try and be there every single Friday at noon. Anyone can join us. We don't censor anybody. We had a visitor recently who wanted to speak extemporaneously about his love of the Trump administration, and we let him. And we put them live on Facebook, and I said, I have no interest in censoring you.
Great.
And he sat and listened to all of our readings for the 45 minutes before he read.
Great.
So we did him the honor of letting him say things that I didn't believe in, but it was his place to do it. So.
That was very big of you to do that.
Wow. Do you get
Yeah.
regulars? Do you get like people that come back every week?
Yeah, so I'm Jeff, and the other Jeff is someone who is almost exactly my father's age. He's a former educator and writer and Vietnam veteran, and he has been joining me since the very get-go. And we have very different life experiences, but he's been there pretty much since the start. So the two Jeffs are usually there.
Cool.
And it's usually somewhere between 4 and 6 people on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. There's so much more we could talk about. We'd have 4 shows here with each one of
sure.
you. We also have with us Jay Walker, leader of Sing Out, Louise. Becky and I heard your group about 2 years ago around Christmas time in
Rockefeller Center.
Rockefeller
was,
Center, near the tree.
Yeah.
And you were there, and I still have the sheet you handed out. I
Yes.
was going to bring it in.
I know.
And
Why didn't we bring it?
I didn't
We
bring
could've
it
sung
out.
some songs
It was
together.
a bright day.
Christmas
and
songs.
You guys are having so much fun, and the lyrics were so great. And the opening of the show was you guys singing from favorite things. Let's hear about Sing Out Louise. It began as Gays Against Guns, or GAG, right?
Yes. Oh, and thank you for having me.
Sure.
Originally, Gays Against Guns was founded that election year. It was founded in June of 2016, right after the Pulse massacre in Orlando, Florida. And as we were coming into the Christmas season, one of our members, Mark Lydorf, who is a former chorus boy on Broadway and also a writer and a lyricist who written a few off-Broadway musicals himself, came up with this idea that, the holiday season is coming. Let's do some fractured Christmas carols. And so that year, we were preparing for it all through October. He was writing away and rewriting all these Christmas carols throughout October that were all really anti-gun lyrics, because this was as a part of Gays Against Guns, and
Which is a whole other topic.
Which is a whole other topic.
Wait, is that still around?
Oh, of course, yeah. No, I'm a founding member of
Yeah.
that, and we are still really active. In fact, we did an action in front of Trump Tower on Valentine's Day, which we.
Is such a thing as Gays for Guns?
There is a group called the Pink Pistols that every now and then someone claims that they're really big, and then they just sort of disappear, and their social media pages never
Yeah.
get updated, and it's only ever like one person at a time.
That's
You don't have to be an activist in this country to be for guns. You don't have to. I mean,
Exactly.
that's a given.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
It's sort of
only
in the
responding
lifeblood.
against it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So Sing Out Louise.
So Sing Out, yeah. So we, then the election happened, and it was like, what?
Yeah, I think we were all there.
And so Mark hurriedly rewrote a bunch of songs into anti-Trump songs, and we started going out. I think right after Thanksgiving, the typical start of the holiday season, and we really started getting attention. People loved it. I think that especially in those early. That early period, people, New Yorkers specifically, were kind of shell shocked. Us who know Donald Trump, who have loathed Donald Trump for 30 plus years. Those of us who have lived in the city that long,
The Apprentice was. I could not watch it.
Oh yeah, I
People
watched
love
this.
it.
I watched the season that Joan Rivers was on because she's like my guardian celebrity.
Right.
She's come into my life like a million times, before over the years. So I watched that season, But I used to work directly across the street from Trump Tower at the old Doubleday Bookshop that used to be at 724 Fifth Avenue, and I happened to start working there right when Art of the Deal was on the bestseller list, and so he was in our store constantly, and people would flee to the back of the store just to avoid him. So my loathing of this man goes back to the 80s. And so we just got out there. We just started singing. It was members of Gays Against Guns, and people really enjoyed it. And
the lyrics are bouncy and
we loved
lively
it.
and creative. I mean, it's like Noel Coward.
Yeah. It's a lot of snark. It's a lot of
a play on sounds and words.
exactly.
And it makes you feel so good when you sing it.
And that's the idea, and that's the idea that that activism doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be in a place of perpetual anger. So just to sort of give people, we're all angry about the situation, but we can at least take a few moments and just sort of express some joy, and just have some fun with it, and just enjoy the humor. And and we're fortunate in that when we're on the left, the artistic community, generally speaking, is kind of on our side. You have your occasional James Woods, but they're few and far between.
A conservative artist. I don't know. Does that work?
It kind
There
of
are a
does.
few.
There are a few.
Yeah,
There are a few.
neocon art.
Remember that guy who said my cold dead hand?
Yeah, and Lenny Riefenstahl. So there are
There
a
you
few
go.
out there.
There you go. There's the art of the right. Thanks, Jay. That was great. I just got to read your buttons. We have Sing Out Louise with your logo, and then NRA Sashay Away.
Yes, that's been a Gag's catchphrase since the very beginning.
Love it.
Okay, so we also have with us Chelsea Feltman. Did I say it right?
That's correct.
Okay, good. The dramaturg for the Shrill Collective, which began as 6 artistic women so totally bored with the patriarchy in a New York City acting class that they decided to take charge. So tell us about the Shrill Collective.
It is a collection of amazing women. But the Shrill Collective is a activist theater company that, as you said, we got started kind of right after the election in 2016. The day after the election, we were all sitting in acting class together. And we hadn't known each other that long. Some of us had only been in the class a couple of weeks.
Can I ask what acting class it was?
Oh, I'll do a little plug. Our teacher is Matthew Corazine of the Matthew Corazine Studio on 36th Street. It's a phenomenal coach. Hi, Matt. We just kind of held each other. It was such a weird day. The day after the election, it felt like a bomb had hit. And no one really knew what to say. And everyone had just all this pent up feeling. And shortly after that, we marched together in the first Women's March that January. And around that time, someone shared an article among us about some repeated attempt from the Republican Party to place more restrictions on women's bodily autonomy. And I made a joke, someone made a joke that we should, do a moratorium on boycott making out with Republicans ever again. And I said, it's a modern day Lysistrata, and that became our first project. So we adapted Lysistrata, and I'm really proud of all our work. This first production was a mess, but it was great. It was just off the wall. We didn't know what we were doing. It was inventive and weird and low budget, and we decided to donate all of our proceeds to the Reproductive Health Access Project, which is a really amazing grassroots organization that is based here in New York City but does work all over the country.
So you don't take any money for yourselves?
We take a small portion. The majority of our proceeds go to the partner organization.
I mean, it must cost you money to put the
right.
the show on.
We have it figured out. We have a percentage that we take that's pretty modest, and through that and our fundraising, we're able to kind of break even and keep doing more shoestring productions.
Right.
So we've 3 years later, today is the third anniversary of our first sit-down meeting together, where we decided to today, yeah,
Wow.
we decided to form a company. And we wanted it to be a theater company. We wanted to create opportunities for ourselves and our colleagues. And we also wanted to keep drawing awareness to issues that affect women and other marginalized people across the board, and to raise money for these organizations.
And the collective is only women?
It's women and non-binary folks.
Okay. All right, got it. So what's with Shrill? What is that?
So You might remember.
Because I see on your website, you're all like, as if you're singing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I'm looking at your button with the open mouth, and our logo is very similar.
Yeah,
It's like a screaming mouth.
The Sing Out Louise logo.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So cool. We thought of the name. It was right off the heels of the last election, and it was very fresh in our minds that one of the criticisms that was hurled at Hillary Clinton was that she sounded shrill.
Right.
And we wanted to use that and reclaim that.
There
and
you go.
own that. So we're loud and brassy, and we don't care what you think.
You don't like shrill? All right.
Right.
Here we go. So, Trifles, tell us about that. It's a play about a woman abused by her husband.
Yes, Trifles is actually it's a piece that's about 100 years old. It was
Really?
written by a woman named Susan Glaspell in, I think, 1916. And it's a little short 20-minute play about two women who are married to the sheriff and the county attorney, and they're inside this woman's house who has been taken away as the suspect in her husband's murder. And the men are off doing their important investigation. I'm doing air quotes. And while they are going through her things and completely oblivious to the sort of domestic world that they're in, the wives go through the small items of her everyday life, the trifles of a woman's life, and they find out what happened. They
Wow.
figure out that she had a pet canary that she loved, and her husband killed the canary, and she snapped. And they decide to hide the evidence and protect her. And
Well,
in
the husband had been abusing her.
Yes,
Right, right.
yes. I should say that it is. You don't see or hear from the husband or the wife.
Well, he's dead, right?
He's dead, and the wife has already been taken away. So you never see this character. She's just spoken about, and they talk about how she once was this girl who sang in the choir, and she was so lively and beautiful, and that her husband just killed all the life out of her. And so they, when in our adaptation, what we did was we added a prologue with music where Minnie, the main character who you never see, becomes a narrator and a character. And so we brought it back 20 years to her life when she was her most free and happy self. And we created a little hootenanny roots music concert and created a community for her and a life for her, so that when she then goes on to narrate the play after this terrible thing has happened, the audience has a sense that she was a real person, and that what she lost and why she might have been driven to kill her husband.
Alina, you saw this production, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear a little piece from it. I don't know if I got the name, My Little Sparrow.
Yeah, this is our version of Come All Ye Fair and Tender Ladies, which is
It's
folk
beautiful.
song.
So stick
Thank
around
you.
for the break, because we'll play a bit of that.
I was just curious, how does it end? Or maybe you should, I know it's not playing
Well,
anymore.
the original play ends with, Glaspell's text ends with the wives deciding to hide the evidence, the primary piece of evidence. And our version, I won't say too much about it, but we give Minnie the last word. And it doesn't end well for her, but at least she gets to say her piece.
So what organizations have you worked with?
As I said, we've worked with the Reproductive Health Access Project. We've worked with Everytown for gun safety, Gun Sense, I can't remember the full name. Women in Need, WIN, Safe Horizon, something else. 826 NYC, a bunch of organizations focusing on many different issues that affect the most vulnerable people in our community.
Very cool. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
And you get to have fun.
Yeah, we
That's
do.
Great. That's great. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
And we also want to welcome Ellen Bender with Markers for Democracy. Thank you so much for coming. I got to meet Ellen last year. I happened to come across one of her events, writing postcards, and so I showed up, and the entire restaurant was taken over by people writing postcards, and she had the most amazing supply of every marker, sticker, and everything under the sun, and it just made it so much fun. So welcome, Ellen. You can tell us about how you got this started and what everyone does and what it's become.
Great. Thanks for having me. So Markers for Democracy was started in September 2018, which was sort of leading up to the midterms, by two friends, myself and my friend Julie Kern, and we met one day to decide that we had each been writing postcards to voters at home on our kitchen counter, and I called it Sharpie therapy because I would watch the TV and get really irate, and I'd write a postcard in brightly colored Sharpies, and it would make me feel better, at least temporarily. So we met one day and we said, why don't we try to do this in a group setting? So we marched over to our local Le Pan quotidian, LPQ in New Yorkese, and we met. And the first day there were 5 people, and we decided to do it twice a week on Tuesday and Friday mornings. By the sort of third or fourth week, we had 25 or 30 people, and it kept growing. And so we wrote through the midterms, and actually before the midterms, we were writing as many as 5 days a week. So we would come to Le Pan Quotidien at 9:30 with a bunch of postcards and Sharpies and postcard stamps, which is actually the most expensive part of the enterprise. And we would write postcards to voters, and we did it through an organization called Postcards to Voters, which was started by a guy named Tony the Democrat. And he started it during the John Ossoff special election in Georgia, which was that first special election after 2016. Same thing. He started with like 6 people, and now, since that time, I think there's close to 7 million postcards that have been written through the organization nationwide, and our group has written 40,000 of them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
7 million. My
That's
goodness.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we started writing postcards, and we interact and overlap. There are several other sort of postcarding activist groups in the city. The Downtown Nasty Women Social Group is one, and there are a bunch of others. And they meet at the Le Pan Quotidien at Bleecker and 6th every Monday morning. So we have like sort of different groups that we can send people to. Our group, after writing postcards for a few months, we decided we wanted to do more. Many of us had started at the Women's March in Washington in the first 2017, is that right? Time in Trump era goes like fast and slow.
It's warped.
Yeah, exactly. So many of us have been doing that, but we wanted to do more. We started a book group, which it's called the OBG, or the Obama Book Group, and we read all the books that Obama has recommended in his yearly end-of-year reading recommendations. So we're on his 5th book, and he's already we're in 2018 still, and he's leaped on to 2019. And then we started this back in 2019. We started a giving circle to raise money to try to flip the Virginia State House. So because of our postcarding, a lot of our postcarding is done for state and local elections in different states around the country. So we've written to, I think, somewhere around 35 states at this point, and everything from school board and city council to state legislative and gubernatorial elections. So because of all that, we learned about state elections and why state legislatures matter. And in fact, I think when you were writing for us, we were writing for the no IDC candidates here in New York, which ended up flipping the New York State Senate. And once that happened, they passed all this progressive legislation that had been bottlenecked in New York State for so many years. So we're trying to do that in other states. So in 2019, we were in Virginia, and now this year, we're going into Pennsylvania and Arizona.
So it sounds like you have a really good success rate. It seems to me.
Well, Virginia, yeah.
New York, Virginia.
We did a show on IDC.
Look out, here come the postcard ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a show on IDC.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for getting that done.
How has it been for the people that have joined, and how has it been for you as far as the therapy aspect of it?
As I said, I think there really is a therapeutic aspect of it, as I think all of us have agreed today, that actually doing something makes you feel better. So people will show up, and amazingly, 2 days, we are there from 9:30 to 12:30, and often even stay longer, and people will stay the whole time and write 20 or 30 postcards, and I think it makes them feel better, because again, every little, your postcard may not make that much of a difference, but all of these people writing all these postcards, and again, our postcards are just telling people to go vote. I mean, that's our message: vote.
Yeah.
Get to the polls. We don't write negative messages. It's all positive pro-voting messages, and it actually feels very empowering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've had speakers come and,
We
and
have
politicians, right?
Yes, actually, just this Tuesday, Tedra Cobb, who's running for the seat up in the North Country in the Adirondacks, she's running against Elise Stefanik, who many of us came to loathe during the impeachment hearings. So Tedra Cobb came to visit us, and she was very inspiring. Wendy Davis has come, who just actually won the nomination for a House seat in Texas. If everyone remembers her, she was in this Texas State Senate and did that filibuster wearing her running shoes. So she's come. Lucy McBath has come, and we've had, Perry Gershon, a lot of, Carolyn Maloney, and we have visitors coming pretty much every week at this point.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great.
And thank you all for being here. You're listening to a podcast, everybody. I'm not sure if you knew that. You know that. Well, this is Bar Crawl Radio, and we've just learned about 4 organizations that have risen up to fight the anxiety that has gripped this nation since the yellow-top tyrant took over the White House. And we're going to take a tiny break so we can drink our beer here. Is everyone enjoying their beer? I'm gonna raise your volumes.
Yeah, very much. Yes.
Yes. I mean,
Beer or other things.
Gephardt says good, fresh, new beers all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
So we take a tiny break, but do not despair. We'll be right back to find out more about 4 ways to protest. And to ease us through the moment, here's a song from the Shrill Collective's adaptation of Susan Glaspell's play Trifles.
But I am not a little sparrow. I have no wings, nor can I fly. So here I'll sing grief and sorrow, and watch my troubles pass me by.
You just heard a piece from the Shrill Collective's adaptation of Susan Glaspell's play Trifles. We'd like now to talk about the experiences of challenging political power.
Yeah, and
What's
I think
that like?
this is kind of open to everybody now. So it's a free for all. All your mics are on. I think what I was hearing was that the election of Donald Trump in 2016 affected us all. I mean, it's no duh. I mean, we all know that.
Well,
I
tell
think-
him what you did, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, at 8:30 that night, November, what was it?
I don't know.
When we knew that Trump was going to be our president. Yeah, I mean, I turned off the TV. I went to my
You
studio.
couldn't stand to listen to those
and I
pundits
started
anymore.
calling around the country because I couldn't. I lost my faith in news media, and I started a program called No News Media for Now, and I started calling around the country for the next month.
You interviewed my
like
brother,
3,
who is
4
a Trump
times
supporter.
a week, and the first one of the first I called was Jim.
Yeah.
Who
He said,
who-
"Get over it."
Who told me, "Get over it." It's the new world. Get over it.
But the interesting one was, I think you interviewed a man in Florida who had gone kind of viral. He was I think he was an artist, and he didn't want to hear the results.
Yeah,
so
he
put
like me.
headphones on and he walked around with
the
the
sign says, "Don't tell me who won."
And he stayed, mostly in his bungalow.
So for the most of you, that's what got you started, right? Had you been active before?
For me, I had been years and years ago, and then
Gays Against Guns.
Well, no, well, prior to that, I mean, years ago, like in the late '90s, early 2000s, around after Matthew Shepard was murdered, and then I sort of moved out of activism entirely for over a decade, and then the Paul shooting shooting in June of 2016 is what re-engaged me.
And that's what got GAG started.
Yeah, exactly. I was one of the founding members of GAG. We started a meeting at the LGBT Center. And so the good thing about that was that it sort of reattached me to the world of New York City activism, because especially queer activism. So a lot of ACT UPers were there at the beginning of GAG. A lot of people that, from Queer Nation and from all of these other activist groups, joined us in protest, because everyone was sort of shocked to their core when Pulse happened.
There's so many things that's been shocking us over the last 4 years. I mean, it's almost shock has become a norm.
Yeah, it's a daily
which
thing.
is dangerous. When shock
because it's become normalized, right? It's like that's the fear right now. Is that
He's
so
done
much
a great
of this
job.
has become normalized.
The Don has done a great job in making shock norm. The shock jock.
What about everyone else? How did you come to this activism?
Well, so I'd always been active in reproductive justice since the time that I was in college, and I went to Wesleyan University in the late 1970s, which my husband always says is like the 1960s anywhere else. So our social life included we had sit-ins. That was sort of like what we did on a Saturday night. So it comes to me naturally. But I was a lawyer. I was a litigator. I did that for a few years, and then I did sort of PA mom volunteering work, and I found actually that the skills of running a bake sale and all the things that you do as a PA mom actually translate very well to activism, because it's really it's like a community organizer at different levels. So so now this is very much, it's a full-time commitment for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
How you going to
For
start?
me,
Chelsea.
I think for a lot of people my age, I'm 30 now. The first election I voted in was Obama in 2008. And so I think I was always passionate about issues, but I hadn't really gotten on the street, as it were, until 2016. And I think a lot of people in my demographic are the same. I think I'd never been to a march until 2017.
We covered the Women's March in Washington, D.C. That was an amazing
It was an
event.
incredible, I mean, I
Right.
did it here in New York, but it was an incredible just phenomenon. But yeah, I think this really ignited something that I'd always cared about stuff, but I'd never really gotten out there and created something or done something.
The only time I remember that had anything like that was Vietnam. Of course, you all don't. Well, many of you don't. Some of us do remember Vietnam. Was the activism that happened in Vietnam, because that was entirely wrong, and we knew it, and we were young, and we did. A lot of us did something about it. So yeah.
My parents took me down to D.C. For a rally during the 1960s against the war, and I took my daughter to D.C. for the Women's March.
Oh, you were there?
Yes, and it was just such an amazing experience to be there and to be there with her, generationally.
I mean, in a way, we got to thank the Don for bringing us together. In a way, I mean.
He woke us up. That's for sure. That's
who
what
we
happened.
really are.
Well,
To who we really are,
and
exactly.
all the different groups that were siloed before became a part of this much larger resistance,
Yeah.
which has been the really exciting thing. Where for me, I've learned so much more about women's issues, about women's reproductive rights. I've learned so much more about disability rights through my work with other groups like Rise and Resist, and I feel like that, we've created this sort of like large mega kind of family.
It's
not
a good
MAGA,
thing.
not MAGA. Mega.
But it is true. The catalyst of the shock of the election, and then this immediate response, like your body trying to reject a virus, and I feel like as someone who has young kids and has a family and has a full-time job, I was seeing more people that hadn't been active because, I don't have time. I can't, I give a few dollars or whatever. I saw more people step on the front lines in this period of time than I'd ever seen. And, and maybe it had been since Vietnam that people were willing to stand up. I mean, I would hope that this will continue even if we get someone blue elected in November. I shouldn't say if. When we get someone blue elected in November. But, Chelsea was talking about, it's 3 years ago since the first meeting of your group. Today is the day that Elizabeth Warren dropped out of the race. And there is...
I'm so sad.
Well, and you
Devastating.
see this cycle start to go what feels like it's headed towards a predestined conclusion that it will be a Trump-Biden election. And again, vote blue no matter who and all of that. But it does feel like maybe the change that we're all hoping for won't come so easy, even though we were out there doing what we do. And so I hope, even if we get that change, that this group, all of these
Continues.
groups will continue
Yes.
to use the original catalyst
Yes.
of Trump's election.
Never again.
Right, never again.
Oh, there's a comedian that, I mean, they advertise me on Radiolab. I keep hearing him, but I thought it was perfect. He talked about politicians in general and their, that politicians lie. And if you did a Venn diagram of, politicians and lying, it would be like an eclipse. So I mean, we all have to be there. It doesn't matter who's in office. There's a lot of problems with our government, and we
have to
all
hold them
have to
accountable.
keep aware and keep the dialogue going. And yeah.
Do you all have anyone in your family who, like in our family, we have Trump supporters? I've got a cousin who's a Trump supporter, and he doesn't talk to me. And
You have two cousins, Karen too. Oh,
Karen,
sorry.
yeah, right.
Hi,
don't
Karen.
name names.
And, my
and
brother,
your
my brother Jim.
Jim is a Trump supporter. Do you have
Yes,
anyone in your
and
family
Nancy.
that's like that?
Black. No.
No.
That's good, though. But
I've
there,
met.
I'm just saying the odds are much, much lower for a black person to have a
but
Trump
that's
supporter in
the
their family.
thing is that there are.
There are.
I
I-
always,
there are.
when
I
you
met
see
black
that, you
people.
kind of go, "What are you thinking?"
Their families don't speak to them.
Anyone? No.
Jewish, no.
Yes.
I am half Jewish and half Italian, and there are none on the Jewish side. But I have an aunt
Oh, the Italian
and uncle
side.
on the other side who are Trumpers, and my husband's family. A lot of them are quite conservative and voted that way, so it's hard.
So
Yeah.
so the family Thanksgiving, you just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we don't talk.
It's interesting you said that because I'm Jewish and I married an Italian woman, and my children are in your position, half Jewish, half Italian. And yes, the Italian side of the family has Trumpers on it. So yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I would say that lines of communication that were open before just aren't anymore. And I was willing to take a certain amount of abuse over Obama, but things just ground to a halt when
Right.
Trump got elected.
I mean, the fact that one of you who said that Obama reads books. Yeah. Thank you, Alan. And the fact that we had a president who reads
Well-
good books, right, and
Yeah.
actually understands the words that are in front of him.
Yeah.
They could probably say anonymous, which I hear Trump can't say.
Well, the motto of the reading group is "We once had a president who read books, and we will again," and we will.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. So, and I think what I wanted to also say back to the last question about whatever happens in the presidential election, I think all of us here have learned that actually local and state elections and what happens in our local and state, government actually matter a lot. And in that respect, I actually feel quite hopeful. I sort of feel that we've all been woken up. Like, I didn't know who my state assembly person or my state senator
Well,
were.
Linda Rosenthal is right upstairs.
I know, and she's
she's
come
been-
to postcarding, actually.
And she sat in that chair
Yeah.
where you're sitting.
Yeah, so I think, and a lot of these issues that we care about, gun control, reproductive freedom, these are happening, even environmental issues, they're happening on the state level. So if you saw what happened in Virginia, yeah, there's hope.
There's an organization called Represent Us. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. They are taking the issues, and they're actually nonpartisan, and they are just looking at the issues. They say there's too much corruption in our government, gerrymandering. You guys all know the corruption, and so they are going state by state, and they've had some success. So absolutely, what is it? Think globally,
Act locally.
act locally.
I'm pulling from questions that Alina gave us, and I'm going to ask it because it's like I thought it was a really good question. What has been the biggest surprise of your enterprise since you started it? Something that you did not expect when you started protesting our political leaders, and one in particular. Biggest surprise that you didn't expect. You didn't think that would happen. Go on, Jim. Yeah.
You know what the biggest surprise was, and this isn't specific to Sing Out Louise. This is more about Gays Against Guns. The biggest surprise was that was seeing the Gays Against Guns banner and Madonna music video.
Oh, right.
Congratulations.
That was pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You know, that happens. We just had the Peace Poets on, and they had a poem that they had started to help with tenants' rights. And then it was picked up by the actor.
It went viral. Samuel Jackson.
Samuel.
It was a song.
It was a song, and then he took it up and said, everyone needs to sing this song. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Ellen.
sometimes there are some surprising victories. So just recently, in the last few months, we've had the governor of Kentucky that we wrote postcards for, and a Democrat won that, and you would never think that knowing about Kentucky. And then same thing, Louisiana, but we wrote for actually an openly LGBTQ candidate for city council in Lincoln, Nebraska last year, and I just thought like, oh, total long shot, and he won. I think James, and I can't remember his name, but that was like surprising, and it actually gave me hope, because I think, we have this tendency living here on one of the coasts to think about the middle of the country as a sort of vast sea of red, and it's not. Like even in a state like Nebraska, there are blue pockets, and I think part of what I like to think about the postcards is sending our blue energy into those pockets of blue in the red, and eventually growing more blue.
Yeah, like come out. You're in hiding.
And that's actually happened with postcarding. I don't mean to hog, but there was a group of women in a very red district in Texas, and we wrote for a candidate. He didn't win, but they all got postcards, and they found out about the group, and they started their own sort of underground groups, or where they write postcards in someone's basement. So
So you reverberated.
yeah.
Yes.
That is an amazing thing, though, when you hear about how much in hiding people of the left can be in some of these communities. It just sort of seems like something out of the 30s or something. It's really kind of shocking.
Well, as I watch the elections on TV, they talk about Texas. I say, wait, Texas? They have Democrats in Texas? But of course they do. And, it's just kind of like, oh, yeah.
Well, in Texas is shifting. Texas could be like solidly purple within the next few elections, and possibly even blue in the next
Your
couple
mouth,
decades.
Jay, to call. Chelsea, anything surprising? Shrill Collective.
I think for us, the surprise is that we're still here and that there's been so much interest in the ways that we've grown, because, as you're saying, once you start doing stuff, I think I was surprised at how many people wanted to work with us and had said, I was looking for something like this. I'm an artist. I was looking for a way to get out what I'm feeling inside of me and to help. And we have taken on new members, and we're doing more just like volunteer opportunities that don't have anything to do with performing, and people sending us scripts that they want us to, consider for our. I mean, it's incredible. That's a huge surprise. So.
You're
Very
real.
nice.
You're
We're
real.
real.
Thing.
Well, I wanted to audition for one of the shows.
Yeah.
You should.
Do you accept any men? No.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We have men in
you
many
are
of our
non-binary,
plays.
honey.
Actually, we have a word. We have a word for our male allies, which is shrallies. It can be a shrally.
But he's totally non-binary.
Yeah,
He's very feminine.
There's a
he's
feminine
fine with
part
it.
of
He
me.
loves it.
Isn't there?
Jeff,
Yeah.
surprise.
In the beginning, I hadn't even planned to record these things, and somebody told me I should put them on Facebook, and then we started doing them on Facebook Live. And the biggest surprise for me has been the fact that they have this life after the readings. I had thought of them as, I'll stand in this place, and I'll use my voice, and anyone who comes with me will use their voice as well. But the readings are now posted on Facebook Live, recorded, shared, and I'm forgetting what we all feel about maybe Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook's intrusions into our daily lives. It gives us a platform to put these things out in the world, and people react with them, they connect with them, and people I don't know really seem to appreciate them and find that this teach-in gives them a way to connect with texts and parts of their history and things happening today that feel important, seem important, but they are, maybe they're in a red state, maybe they're just far away, maybe they just don't have anybody around them that's willing to do this type of book group or go to a play or go somewhere that they'll feel connected to all of this, and it seems to give them a place to do that, and that's been really
And you're out there at Trump Tower
every Friday at noon. And all are welcome, and it's open to the public, and we really enjoy using Trump's lobby against him.
God bless you.
You are listening to Bar Crawl Radio. Alan and I have conversations at our neighborhood bars with most interesting people.
Yes, we do.
Today, we have been talking with the leaders of 4 progressive political protest groups. Thanks to Jay Walker of Sing Out Louise, Ellen Binders, Markers for Democracy, Chelsea Feltman, the Shrill Collective, and Jeff Bergman of Learn as Protest.
Thank you very much. We had a great time.
Thank
We're
you.
recording from the porch of Gephardt's Beer Culture Bar, just west of Broadway's West 72nd Street. We'd love to hear from you. Anyone you would like, anyone you would like us to talk to.
You wrote this out.
I know. Anyone you would like us to talk to, contact us at barcrawlradio@gmail.com, all one word, all lowercase. And once again, thanks to our co-producer, Alina Larson. Thank you, Alina, for putting this episode together. I don't think we've had so many people around the Bar Crawl table here on the porch.
Such a good
And
panel.
Thank you, Wade Ripka's Soviet pop band Eastern Blockheads. I was going to let Wade take us out, but I think we'll let the Shrill Collective take us out
Sounds good.
with another cut from Trifles. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He told me that he did not love me. I could not believe it true until an angel softly whispered, "He has proven untrue to you." Oh, very beneath the willow, under the weeping willow tree, so that he may know where I am sleeping, and perhaps he'll weep for me. Tomorrow was our wedding day, but oh Lord, Lord, where is he? He's gone to see another bride, and he cares no more for me. Oh, very beneath the willow, under the weeping willow tree, so that he may know where I am sleeping, and perhaps he'll weep for me. Oh, very beneath the willow, under the weeping willow tree, so that he may know where I am sleeping, and perhaps he'll weep for me.
Oh, that was so much fun.
That was great.
Yeah,
That was great.
It was like therapy. It was like therapeutic.
Yeah, it was really great.
So good.
And so you edited it together, and then you
You have to edit in the fart noises and the
sound
sirens.
effects.
We do this other thing, we call it other, where it's just Alan and I talking, and he kept my burp in.
She had the most perfect burp.
Oh, really?
I'm not-
there's the
I'm still
boy
not
in
happy.
me was like
Right.
really jealous. And I've used it
Gotta
again.
keep it real.
We like the pimples.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, you guys were
that was
fantastic.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know, there's an Alfred Hitchcock adaptation of that play. I happen to have seen it's. You know, he had 2 different hour long series. There's Alfred Hitchcock
yes, I remember
Hour
Alfred
and
Hitchcock
Alfred Hitchcock. There was Alfred
Yeah,
Hitchcock
yeah.
Presents and there was Alfred Hitchcock Hour.
haven't
I
seen
can't
it.
remember which one it's on, but when you started describing, I was like, I've seen this, I've
yeah,
seen it, and then I was like, oh yeah, and I've seen it recently, like within the last
I have
couple.
to check that out.
Yeah, but
that's
yeah,
amazing.
and I was like, oh, I
Did they
did
call
that.
it Trifles or is it?
You know, it was just an episode. You know, they may
know.
very well have. It may have been the title, but you know, because they did actually title all of those shows. Yeah, exactly.
And then he comes into his.
Into his, yeah. Yeah, check it out.